I am Gracie Jones. I am the producer, the host, and the sponsor for this event. Just an FYI, we host this event bi-monthly to support our business communities, provide valuable information to you. Whatever the hot topics are, the biggest concerns out there in this world, COVID-19 has had a tremendous impact on all of us in some shape and form. Some people have been surviving, some people have been thriving, some people not so much. So my goal and my mission as a fellow business owner, entrepreneur, is to help my colleagues out. We're all in this together, guys.
Once you really pour your heart and soul into something that you're good at and you love, you don't let it go. You just learn to transition those skills in a new way, which for many of you that are coming to hear this topic today is relevant, right? You have all these great skills, these talents, and these gifts, and you don't necessarily want to let them go. You just want to find your sweet spot. I call it looking at your TSG, those talent, skills, and gifts, finding your sweet spot to see how you can expand and evolve and just do good things that you did before that you really loved and do them differently.
He had this whole intention of, we're going to do things. We're going to make each day feel different. So they started a soccer league right on the ice. They played games every day. They had these dinner parties. So picture 22 sailors having a dinner party where they get all dressed up, and they had music. They made these events so people had things to look forward to and people could keep going. And that's really interesting because in the space we're in today, you may be home with your family like me 24/7, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of variety, but we found if we just do little things every week to change it up, go somewhere, do something outside, it really does keep you going and it doesn't feel so hard every day. The other thing he strongly believed in is routine and chores and consistency. So even if your job before the ship was stuck in ice was to mop the floors, even though the ship was stuck, before it sunk, you were in there mopping the floors. Every day you did your chores. Even though the boat wasn't moving, they still kept doing their science and their experiments because they were explorers. So they continued doing that as much as they could. They all had to get haircuts because he wanted people to look really well kept while they were stuck in ice. And he believed strongly in the routine and the consistency. So, to kind of sum up his story, they decided to leave the men on the ice, and a small group of them set sail for another island. You should really read this story in depth because I am summarizing it, and it is extraordinary. Ernest Shackleton took 6 men. They got to a smaller island. They had to leave some of the men on that island and keep going. They had to go to a whaling station and get help. But to get there, they had to climb over a mountain and slide down it. And it's just an incredible story how he just kept going and had faith in his people. So September of 1916, over 2 years later, their entire crew was rescued. I believe only one person out of that entire crew died. So it's pretty phenomenal that he could lead them out of that. But the most interesting story is his leadership traits and characteristics.
Asking is tough, right? So when you have trust issues, which many of the high-level professionals that are here at different stages of their career and in their transition do, how do you put yourself in position to ask? Because one of the case study examples that you gave from Shackleton was really about having unshakable faith in that, support person, or in some cases, the support system that you created. So how do you put yourself in that really bold space to say, okay, I have to trust that they will be honest with me to say yes or no. And if they do say yes, that they will follow through, and trust enough to actually back away and not micromanage and let that person or those people or those systems do it. What would you, say for encouragement for everyone listening?
That's a great question. I think the person who you are delegating to or asking help from, you have to have faith in them, and you have to really early on recognize they're not going to do it like you. It's going to be done differently, and that's okay. And you have to be able to hand it off and say, I'm out of that now. And if they need help, they will come to me, but I am out of that now, because the whole point is to get that off of your plate. So if you leave it half on, it's not really off. And if you don't trust that person enough, why are they with you or in your life? Or that's a bigger question. So if it comes down to, I don't trust they're going to do it, or they're not, it's okay if they don't do it your way, but set those guidelines and parameters of, I would like it done by this time. And I really think you just have to have, trust and faith in the person that they're going to execute and really be able to help you.
With teachers in their classroom, so a job embedded experience in their classroom to figure out how they can better support the literacy lives of their children. And so I have seen thousands of reading lessons, like thousands, literally. And so pre-K through 12th grade, I have seen pretty much, there's very little that I have not encountered. So lots of times parents want to know, why do I have to be involved? Isn't that why I send them to school? Isn't that why I sent them to the best school imaginable? So we're not even talking folks who are necessarily using the public school systems. We're talking about folks who are using private schools, paying big tuition, but yet taking a hands-off approach to what their children are capable of as readers. So why do you have to be involved? Because it's critical for you to understand where your child is. Now, I am sure that during this time of emergency remote learning, which is what we call it, because it's not really online and it's not really homeschooling, because those are systems that are in place in areas where folks are taught exactly how to do it. Folks opt into exactly that particular format. This is emergency remote learning. This is virtual learning, but it's important for parents to understand that you need to have a relationship with the school. Why do you need to have a relationship with the school? Because it sets the tone for what students are, what your child thinks about school. It also helps you understand the benchmarks. What is my child supposed to be able to do at this point? What are they supposed to be able to do by the end of the year? All of that information is information that parents need to have, and they won't get it unless they partner with the school, and in particular, with that child's classroom teacher.
Something that I wrote down, kind of interpreting something you said, which I thought was really important, was being open to seeing your child's strength, not just their weakness, to really encourage the growing of them as readers, which I thought was crucial. So another question that came up is, when parents are hesitant to ask questions, for whatever their reasons are, maybe that they had their own, negative stories from growing up and having teachers not encourage that, whatever that might be, even though, you as the teacher, the literacy consultant may have said, no, really, truly, ask me the question, like you're giving them permission. Do you have an approach to really helping them understand it's a safe space? You're not judging them just because they have the question that maybe they felt like they should know the answer to, because, we get into that, authority, judgment, or feeling judged place. Have you taken certain approaches with those parents in the past?
Yes, and I think I totally get it. And that is definitely something that parents experience. Like you said, sometimes their own experience with school has been shaky or not good. Mm-hmm. And so they're not prone to approaching the situation. The first thing is to remember that now you're advocating for your child. So try to remove yourself from the situation, make it about your child. Mm-hmm. The second thing from the teacher end is to see if a one-on-one situation is better. So it's not like, there's 10 of us sitting here from open school night. Does anybody have any questions? But making it a more one-on-one, people are more apt to ask a difficult question or what they might think is an embarrassing question in a one-on-one situation than they would in a group setting.
So true. And even in this kind of virtual emergency world of teaching that we're living in right now, I know that many of the teachers have to use Zoom because that's, what the school districts are funding and what's accessible to them. There's breakout rooms in the Zooms that, of course, it's another learning curve, like even for the teachers who may not be techie, to learn how to use those breakout rooms to have that private consultative space for the parents. But then on the other side of that, we have teachers that need to be taught by you, right? Like and other encouraging teacher experts who are giving them compassion and patience to back up and be okay with the fact that they have their own new learning curve with all this technology, right?
Absolutely. So I mentioned earlier that I'm a life coach as well.
Yes.
And since the spring where everything went into shutdown mode, the kinds of conversations I'm having with teachers are literally 60% life, 40% how do I do my job well?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is very, very difficult for teachers to adjust and adapt to the virtual world if that's not been their thing.
Yeah.
And so I would ask parents to have the little compassion and some grace attached to how you're approaching teachers right now, because they are struggling not only with the technology, because I struggle with the technology, but they're also, for many of them, dealing with their own kids at the same time they're dealing with your child.
Right.
So if I'm a teacher and I've got my own children at home who are also in a virtual situation, and then I have to help my class at the same time, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
They're also grappling with attendance. They're grappling with the issues that individual children have, where if we were in a physical setting, you could address and support very differently than what you can do on a Zoom call.
Which is a really serious thing with the multitasking that's necessary for most of us. Now, I think everyone that's here, for the people that I can see, and I know there's some that I can't, we probably consider ourselves to be high-level professionals, critical thinkers, people who are able to problem solve. And then when you are that person, and that's your identity, let's just assume that you're also a parent, and now you're faced with this new technology that not only your child has to answer, which actually Gracie mentioned in the comments as well, the technical challenges are there for the parents and the students. So you're trying to help your child, and then you're faced with your own inadequacies around how do you now learn this new thing in addition to all your hats. So your patience gets a little limited. So to your point, as a life coach, really being able to help the parents deal with what's kind of underneath of that and address it, because they have this professional hat of like, I'm the person, I'm the fixer, right? I'm the problem solver. And now what do you mean I can't help my third grader?
I always say when it comes to length, and I get a lot of questions, I get a lot of people asking me, how long should my resume be? Is it the more the merrier? And I've always told people, I always say, remember the 3 bears: not too long, not too short, just right. You don't need a 12-page resume if you can do that in 2 pages. Generally, I like to keep all of my resumes that I submit to clients no more than 2 pages. First, nobody or very few people will spend the time to read too much more than 2 pages. So it's important to keep it succinct, and it's really about what I tell candidates. It's about the quality. It's not about the quantity. You can have 3 or 4 pages that are not very relevant, or you can have one page that's absolutely fantastic.
Assessments or quizzes that you can use to help identify when you are a person who's in transition. So you might be, let's say, I'll just pick on me. I'm not in transition, but let's say I was. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a sex therapist and trauma specialist by profession, and then I transitioned into the personal development and coaching space. But had I not been doing it as an entrepreneur and was going after maybe like a talent and acquisition position inside of a hotel, you know, at a company, are there some assessments or quizzes or things when you're nervous about how to take your one skill and, you know, kind of flip it over? Are there things you recommend?
Absolutely. And that's really, Nikita, that's really interesting. We're getting a lot of requests from clients that are outside of the hotel and hospitality industry. They are in big industry, they're in law, they're in finance, and they want hospitality minded people to lead up their customer touch point. Whether that's your director of staff, you know, whatever that position is. So we're seeing a lot of people transition from hospitality into others. And so it's just really being aware of what that job is going to entail and what do you have in your toolbox that, okay, you know, I'm a hotel person, I'm a food and beverage person, I'm a customer service person, and I'm applying now for a job at a law company, at a law office. So what from my arsenal is going to resonate and going to be relevant to that employer, and that's what you carry through.
All right. Thank you so much, Nikita. Thank you all for being here. And we will be following up with you, not to harass you, but to give you some tools for this event, copies of the presentation, those that you were able to see and those that you weren't able to see because of technical difficulties. But we're going to provide you with copies of those presentations, links that our speakers decided that they would share with you. And we're also going to share with you the upcoming event so that you can check it out and register and attend that one too. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.